Hello. I haven't long gotten home from the hospital and I was going there to beg for a hysterectomy. And let's get into why. Um, my own donor sort of has pushed me to publicise this, and I'll work on getting on podcasts and hopefully working my way up to speaking on TV about this. But the long and short of it is, I have endometriosis. You can click off the video now because it's not fucking interesting in the slightest. Uh, it's not like a great happy life that I'm living with this condition, and I honestly wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Um, you know, um, it's not the only health issue that I have, and to a certain extent, I feel like I deserve this. I deserve some of the pain and the misery that I've had to deal with. But there comes a point where it's not funny anymore, and my life feels like a cruel joke, which is hilarious because I was born on April the 1st, not wanting to come into this world, literally kicking and screaming, being dragged out of my mother's womb. But let's get back to the start of this. In 2029, I was told that I probably have polycystic ovary syndrome, which, it's quite common, to be honest, especially with trans people like me. This is Buster, by the way. I think he wants to be introduced. He is my baby, and he just had his balls chopped off, didn't you? And now he's even more needy than he was before. But he's one of my babies. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, 2029, I was told I possibly have PCOS. No big deal. It's just like a fluctuation in hormones being higher than they should be. You know, hair growth that's typical in males, growing a beard, usually like it's a neck beard. And I have like 5 good strong beard hairs here, which is a lot less than people with PCOS usually have. But in the beginning, I had some blood tests done to check my hormone levels, and they were a lot higher than they should be. Estradiol, which is the strongest type of estrogen that your body produces, was over 100 higher per milliliter or something in blood than it should have been. And my progesterone at that time was double the amount that it should have been. I went through a long time not having many symptoms, really. I wouldn't say that, menstruation was awful. I mean, I felt terrible, and I put that down to just gender dysphoria. But apparently, it's not normal to be in crippling amounts of pain, bleeding heavily, stopping for like 1 or 2 days, and then starting again on a very light flow. This is going to be like a TMI video, by the way. It's going to contain stuff that I usually wouldn't publicise because, it's one of those things that's stigmatised. It's quite a private thing. But it was March of 2022 when I started to get this constant pain to the left of my groin, not that far from my hip. And it was mysterious to me. I spent a long time thinking that it was cancer possibly growing on my ovaries, which happens with people who have a predisposition to breast cancer. If you didn't know this about me, my grandmother had breast cancer and she died at 58 years old. after going into remission, and then the cancer came back and it was everywhere. So for the first year, I was probably putting all my eggs in this basket thinking it was cancer. But then I started doing like an endometriosis clinic. I had my first appointments with the gynecology team, and this nurse that I went to see today, she was like the first person I saw. And from that initial appointment, the surgeon came in, I signed paperwork for a laparoscopy, and 18 months later came the time for this surgical procedure. And it was finally done on the 8th of November 2023. It took a few months after that for the results to come back, and in January I received a letter through my door. I opened it and it said that the biopsies taken from the laparoscopy were endometriosis, and I was sobbing. I read, the words, the samples were endometriosis. I started sobbing and immediately called my parents to let them know, because they were concerned about me. It was very obvious that I was in a lot of pain through this time from March 2022. And I tried a lot of different treatments, gabapentin, but in the end cocodamol is like the only thing that helps even a little. So that's what I take. And I also have mefenamic acid, which I can't take so much of because I have gastritis. I used to have a stomach ulcer a few months ago, but they put me on esomeprazole. What are you sniffing? They put me on esomeprazole morning and night for that. Massive pills. You want some kombucha? Yeah. But now, for the gastritis, I only take one pill every morning, and this, I keep all my meds in this. It's a tall boy. I have a diary to keep for pain. I have to have a pill box because I take so many different medications. What are you doing? But honestly, compared to some other things, I don't take that much for the endo, because honestly there's not much that can be done. There's no cure, and there's no research going into it. The government are really letting a lot of people down, and the nurse told me that gynecology receives the least amount of funding through the NHS, and yet there are, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's around 60,000 people on waiting lists who were in the same position I was in this time last year. No, not even this time last year, like 2 years ago. And because of the publicisation of endo and the symptoms, more people are coming forward and saying, look, this isn't normal, when before we were just told to sort of deal with it. It's normal, just get on with it, when it's not normal to be in so much pain every day that you can't function. Can you just decide what you're gonna do? But yeah, the pain can be really, really bad, and there's no like way in which I can express how painful it is sometimes. And I find that in the evening the pain is the worst, and there are some days where I've taken my cocodamol, and still it's there. It's like I haven't taken anything at all for it. So I use a hot water bottle. It does help a little bit, but obviously there's still this like stabbing. There's just no way that I can really make people understand what it's like if you also don't have endo or anything similar. And endo is just like one of the reasons why I went to the hospital today, to beg for more surgery. I also have high risk HPV, which was diagnosed at the beginning of 2023. I'd had a colposcopy the previous September, so September 2022. I went in for a colposcopy, and if you don't know what that is, basically they open you up to look at your cervix, and you usually get referred if you have cervical ectropion, which is a fairly common side effect of taking progesterone contraceptives. So I went in for that, to have it treated. They apply some acid to it and silver nitrate, to treat that. But they'd also decided to do a biopsy on, the colposcopy, and it showed I had something called dyskaryosis, which I had no idea what that was, and still to this day I'm not entirely sure what it means. But it's just a cell mutation, I guess. The cells on my cervix are mutating, and this year when I had another colposcopy, because when you're diagnosed with high risk HPV, you have to have one every year to check for cancer, because high risk means you're at high risk for cervical cancer and the other kinds of cancer that HPV can give you. I'm not going to drone on about that. If you want to know, just Google it, because I had to. When I had no idea what was going on, I had to Google things. And the HPV makes your immunity lower, so you're more likely to get viruses like colds, flu, COVID, which I had earlier this year, which I was lucky to survive. Oh. But yeah, I'm on the way to getting cervical cancer, and it's not funny. And if they were to remove my cervix and everything else, then the risk of that kind of cancer goes away. Because at the moment I'm constantly thinking about it, and I think that if I don't do something now, within 15 years I will be dead, because I don't really agree with chemo. And if you want to know more about that, please leave a comment and I'll make a short or another video explaining it. But yeah, I'm not very I'm not a fan of chemotherapy, and with all of my health problems already, as bad as they are, chemo might just be the death of me if I tried. And I already have such a low quality of life, and I am miserable living with endo, and you know, HPV with CIN1, which is the status of the mutations now, on my cervix. You know, as I said, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. My worst enemy, I wouldn't wish it upon. And as terrible as I am, do I really deserve so much? Because it's not me that I'm worried about. You know, I haven't had the greatest mental health for a few years now, and just in the last 2 years, it's been like the worst it's ever been. And the endo and everything has a lot to do with my mental health being so bad, because if I wasn't in constant pain and if I wasn't constantly thinking about my own death, then, you know, maybe I wouldn't be so depressed. But no, everything is just so full on all of the time. So a hysterectomy wouldn't necessarily fix me, but it would make things a hell of a lot easier. Right, I'm going to stop this now. And if you want to know about some of my other health problems, of course, leave a comment, let me know. And I'll see you again sometime.